Wake up. It's time for Primal Scream.
And welcome back to the Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
I am Todd.
And today we are at Lionsbridge Brewery with Quinn, the owner, the genius, the chef.
The
brewmaster?
I think you're just a brewer. Brewmaster is a more technical term, but that it's like there's this one school in Germany you go to become a official brewmaster. So I often just call myself the brewer. The brewer. Just a much more base level. But I write all the recipes and brew all the beer. So I am sort of the only brewer, the head brewer, but not a master.
Okay.
No hubris there at all.
Yeah. You have to stay very humble in case something goes wrong.
And what are we drinking today?
Well, I'm drinking the Workman's Compensation. We got another Workman's Compensation over there, and then you've got the Usonius, which is a new beer we're coming out with tomorrow. That is a sort of like a dry hopped blonde ale. It's a sort of an American style called a steam beer, which is a fermented. It's sort of a hybrid between an ale and a lager. But this one is dry hopped and it has a little bit of a sourness to it, like a tartness that dries it out. Sort of like a beer that's sort of hopeful for spring, I think.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
That's wow.
Yeah. I already feel better.
I've always thought it was unique that like jazz, like you could listen to music and you could actually have a feeling go along with that sound. And I also think it's neat that people, or that you have the similar experience with food or alcohol.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to be able to have any alcohol because I just came back from Cancun.
Oh yeah, well that could make you want to go on a detox probably. Fortunately, you're back on. Is it on the wagon or off? You're off the wagon.
I'm back on normality.
Yeah,
normalcy,
which involves beer for sure on this
Anyway.
podcast at least. Quinn,
Yeah.
I would love for you to take us on a little journey of you're from Cedar Rapids. Are you from Cedar?
I am from Cedar Rapids.
So kind of walk us through how you got from Cedar Rapids, where you went to school, and your parents are from here.
Yeah.
How you found your way to Colorado and back, and kind of fill us in on how Lionbridge got started.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up here, ended up, I graduated from Washington High School in 2000. That, to some that will date me, to some they'll be like, man, he's super young. But so then I left, went out to Colorado, ended up going out to Colorado State University. My brother was going to school out at a college in Colorado, so I was sort of ready for a change and just, it was sort of on a whim, and ended up getting, really into the craft beer scene, just being someone who enjoys cooking, enjoys understanding how things are made. Beer and beer styles really appealed to me.
Nice.
As just like understanding, knowing your producer, knowing where things come from, and just the narrative of breweries and craft breweries as like this sort of cool rise of independent industry in the U.S. and how, even more so than, I moved to Colorado in 2001. So, in 14 years, it's really like changed way more. When I moved to Fort Collins, New Belgium Brewing Company had just moved to a new brewery from like a really small place they were at before. And so like they are, and now they're building
huge.
like a giant brewery in North Carolina. So, I mean, in that short, I guess 14 years is a bit of time, but the whole industry has changed even again since when I first got into it. So, but yeah, I loved beer. I loved, honestly, I wasn't necessarily out there for the skiing or the mountains. I didn't really ever get into that so much, but craft beer was something I really latched onto, and making beer. So really enjoyed that. And then, ended up working after graduation, did a couple other things. I moved to Buenos Aires, Argentina for 2 years. Ended up working at a newspaper. So I enjoy writing. I enjoy, doing articles for once in a while. I did them a bit more for the Gazette before I started the brewery, and then I just found I had no time. But, so I did that for 2 years and came back, and I realized that I really missed beer, like good beer. There wasn't a whole lot down there. They were trying, but there wasn't a lot. So, ended up finding a job at a brewery in Fort Collins, moved back out there, and And then it was like 3.5, 4 years that I was a brewer, sort of worked my way up from, guy who scrubs floors and cleans kegs to, one of the lead brewers at a place called the Fort Collins Brewery. And then decided with all of the, growth and interesting things that were happening in Cedar Rapids that there wasn't a local brewery. I mean, Third Base, they do really great things, but, they had been around for a while. I think it's like bringing my own interpretation of the beer that I experienced back to Cedar Rapids was something I really wanted to do, and do it downtown when there was like this rejuvenation, this renaissance of the downtown, and be a part of that and bring my skill set to the area.
Because I think I first heard about Lion Bridge through a friend of ours. I think Ann Taylor knows your mom, and we're friends on Facebook. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. And I was telling Matt that I think I emailed you and offered my free services before this was even done, because I was like, oh my goodness, a brewery in Cedar Rapids, I will come in and scrub a floor, because I would love to have given something of my time to give to that, because I mean, I just think it's the neatest thing that we really needed around here.
I think when you first contacted me, I was probably on the verge of insanity. So I just with trying to, at that point I was running the tap room, brewing all the beer, trying to do like events to promote the brewery and doing like the bookkeeping, and
I have really bad timing. Yeah. So this is even before that. This is when you had just bought the building, just contemplating what was happening, and I emailed you probably on Facebook and said, hey, can I come down and nail a nail on a board for you? Some obscure dude who just asked the question.
Fortunately, we had good people who were like doing all that. We had
awesome.
A great contractor who came in to take this building from like being abandoned for a year to, it was occupied after the flood, but there was a ton of remodeling that had to be done. And between like taking occupancy of the building on like September 2nd, we were brewing beer like the end of January, which is pretty amazing considering what it looked like before. To be making beer in that short of time was something like that was pretty. I'm still to this day amazed that it happened.
So do you know, this used to be the Czech supermarket, right?
Yeah,
Czech Village. Are we like in the freezer section? I mean,
I have a really funny picture that I always try and look at and like correlate, like where am I at? And this, it's a picture from opening day of this. It was called Fritz's Food Market, and essentially it was a giant open space. None of the walls that are in the brewery were here.
Okay.
So it's just a big open space with aisles, and so the cash registers were maybe about up by where the front doors are. And then it was just aisles, and it opened in 38. It was like January 2nd of 1938. And
good timing.
I don't know, but they had they had all these newfangled things like shopping carts and a parking lot, and they touted that their employees could speak English and Bohemi. And that was what, Bohemi was like what they called Czech, I guess.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's really cool. I think it's a great space for, a grocery store, just, as designed is a great space for a brewery, because it's like a big open place with concrete floors. And, I like the sort of like the more, rustic look of our space. It's not highly finished floors. The floors are the original concrete from 1938. Like, we didn't do much to it. So, we just and it's like it's sturdy, durable stuff. There's actually a basement too that we're not even using yet, but we have sort of I have some grand plans for it that we'll hopefully get around to when we need the space. But yeah, this is the original windowscape we have here that it was changed slightly over the last 70 years, and we decided to go back to what their windows originally looked like. So trying to make it look as authentically, sort of was like 1938 opening day as we could, with all new guts, LED lights, all new, very efficient windows and HVAC and all that. So,
well, I appreciate not only did the thought go into bringing a brewery here and having good beer, but the building that you're going to be in. You made it efficient. Yeah. You kept it as raw as you could from what it was originally. I mean, I think to me, that's the pull. I'm not coming into some flashy, fangled new brand spanking new thing. It has some history and some meat on the bones walking in the door.
It took a year to find. I mean, there were buildings that you looked at. There were buildings that you invested a lot of time in trying to put it. That I tried to put floor plans together, thinking that it could work. Only to get to a point where you're like, this can't work, and you just like crumple up the paper. And it was more like I was using Google SketchUp, and I just throw my Google SketchUp document, just throw it away. But yeah, eventually you found this place, and you're trying to find that great combination between location and the square footage and just you can have the utilities you need, because with brewing you need lots of water, lots of electricity, you need a place to potentially have a boiler for steam and all these things that it can't just be a cool looking building. It also needs to be very functional.
I bet.
More industrial than commercial. So,
are you thinking about, you were talking about earlier before we hit the record button about the potato beer?
Yeah.
Are you thinking, because of how successful and how great it tastes, to kind of bring that to being a staple?
It could be. I think the potatoes are just a pain in the ass to work with. We cooked them and we mashed them, but they're just like this starch. I don't know if you've ever, The first time was pretty good. The second time I actually mashed them overnight and refrigerated them, and it turned into sort of this like concrete. And so I tried to like puree them all, and it ended up being like a brew day that was like at least, it's not quite twice as long as a normal brew day, but it just turns into like this gelatin mass that you're trying to like run water through. I don't know if you brewed before, you probably understand what I'm talking about, but it was it's a great beer, and it was worth the suffering. But I'm not sure at this point. It won't be maybe once we get some more tanks and some more capacity. We don't have a stout year round, so it might be one that would be a good option. I think it's really drinkable and very delicious, and I might try a batch too without the potatoes, just to see how that went. But the potatoes might add a little bit of something extra that you just gotta suffer through it and do it every time, no matter what. That's why you hire an assistant, I think.
Well, if you've ever made mashed potatoes,
or you go through your emails, and you're like, hey, there was that sucker.
Yeah, there was that sucker. Like, what was his name? Oh yeah.
He offered free service. I would still do it. I'd be happy to come in and clean out a barrel or two for sure. Well, you ever made mashed potatoes and gravy? You used the water from the potatoes that you boiled as a thickening for your gravy. Oh, yeah. So I'm not surprised that you had trouble with that starch.
Yeah. But it was fun, and the end result was great. We had the huli last Sunday, which, it was like I'd never been, being from here, lived, had been back since I turned 18, but my first, 18, 19 years were in Cedar Rapids. I never went to an Irish huli. And it was like, you walk in, there were like 1,000 people in this place, all in green, drinking beers, and a lot of them were drinking Lionbridge, the stout, which was fantastic to see, and it was some cool Irish music. And so, it was a new experience for me, which is, you think you've seen it all, growing up here, but it was like a big event that was cool. And the fact that they were drinking my beer was great.
Yeah, to be a big part of that. I suffered the sickness that everybody's been going through flu-wise, and so I was bedridden this weekend, but we had the Sepadepiso, president on, and I was so excited to go down there, and then I remember rolling over going, oh, the huli.
It's not going to work.
Back to sleep.
Yeah, I was going through customs late the night before, trying to get back into the States. And recuperating a little bit from my... there's a picture that my wife had somebody take of me drinking this drink.
Yeah.
So I got down there, and all they had was one beer.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you have for beer? And they told me, I'm not going to say the name, but I didn't want to drink it. So they had the menu in crayon or chalk, looked like crayon. And so I said the name of one drink, and the guy said, oh, is this for the kids? And Good job. No. And then I looked a little bit closer at the ingredients, and there's no alcohol. So I was like, no, let's forget that. How about we go with the rainbow colada? And that was it. The whole time I was down there was a rainbow pink drink. It was great. It was just missing the umbrella, but my wife went with the beer.
And you were missing your penis as well.
And I was missing my penis. And,
sure.
Yeah, my wife made that comment to the bartender. Anyway, it wasn't very nice.
But it was,
But it went down very nicely, and it killed me.
Well, maybe you might be able to answer this question, because I've definitely had beers in other places, in Costa Rica. I had some beer, and I know when I was in Palm Springs, my brother had a bunch of different beers from Mexico, and I got like splitting headaches from them. And can that be from like the filtration process that there's less, or do you know how that? Would you have a night?
Just be from quantity.
Well, actually, I had one beer. I had one beer of a beer.
I mean, maybe if you're in the sun and you're like just drinking one beer, but you're getting I'm sure I don't know their process down there, but I imagine they're basically probably the water they use, they're probably filtering it in such a way that there's nothing left in there. But
when you cook it up too, you heat it up, so maybe
but I bet their water is it goes through a process called reverse osmosis, which is like a filtration process that strips everything out of the water, like everything, and then you build it back up however you want. I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know enough about their brewing process to really comment intelligently, but. Yeah.
Well, I know that I went to Seattle to see my brother-in-law, and he took me to some breweries that are out there, some really small microbrews that were fun to go to and fun to look at and see. But I drank 2 growlers full of beer one night, and I woke up the next morning. And I want to say it's the worst hangover I've ever had in my entire life. And I couldn't figure out why, because I can drink 2 growlers of beer without too many issues. And somebody said, did you finish the entire growler? And I said, yeah, I emptied it into a glass or into my mouth at one point, I'm sure. And they said sometimes because they were filling them off of almost like a thing like you have back here. And they said sometimes things need to settle to the bottom. And so even they say if you home brew, you want to leave the last inch of beer at the bottom for things that haven't settled. And so my brother-in-law is like, I'm pretty sure that it was because you drank every little piece of whatever was still floating around from the tank and it didn't settle enough, and you should never drink the whole entire growler. And I chalked it up to that because I had 2 growlers of your beer on Friday, and
fine.
It was totally fine. So
I don't know. It's tough to say. The guy who owns Sam Adams, Jim Cook, he swears that his way to avoid, this is a story I read, his way to avoid hangovers is to, between beers, take a shot of yeast, so it's got a lot of vitamins in it. Historically people would drink beer because it had a lot of vitamins and minerals.
It's a health thing. Yeah.
Like during Lenten season, the monks in Germany would drink like Doppelbock, like really heavy beer that was very just had a ton of yeast left in it, and it provided them, they didn't eat food for like 40 days, but they would drink this beer that would give them the nutrients they needed to survive. I think they drink water too, but yeast by itself should be providing you with a lot of vitamins and minerals, but I don't know in your case what happened, but
I messed up in way too many
Should
ways.
we try that sometime?
No.
Should we Lions Bridge? Should you guys have something where hey, we're gonna fast on beer for nothing but 40 days?
I'd give that a shot any day.
You can try it. There was a guy in Iowa who did it. Jay Wilson, a friend of mine. He wrote a book about it too. It's called Diary of a Part-Time Monk. He lived off of Doppelbock beer for the Lenten season to try and replicate they brewed a specific beer at Court Ave in Des Moines that he survived off of for 40 days and 40 nights.
Wow.
So I think it was designed specifically to allow him, give him a ton of, I don't know what the recipe is, you'd have to ask him, but he, he did it, and he's still around to tell the tale.
So, I wonder how much beer you drink a day?
I think it was
Buy the book.
I don't know, you'd have to buy
the book.
Oh, yeah.
Confessions of a what?
Part-time monk, or Diary of a Part-Time Monk.
Diary of a Part-Time Monk.
Yeah.
I like that. I have to give that a shot.
So I went down for a wedding down in Cancun. Mm-hmm. You recently were married.
Were you at my wedding?
I should have been. That probably would have been a lot of fun. My wife's nephew got married down in Cancun, down at Dream Sands. Not really a plug. You shouldn't really plug that. It was a great hotel.
Yeah.
Had a wonderful time. They brought out the LED dance floor.
Oh, yeah.
Right out on the beach. But I had a few aha moments, and I was wondering if you possibly had similar aha moments down there.
Sure.
Because your wedding and
it was in
honeymoon and everything was in a similar...
Well, yes and no.
It was in Tulum.
No, my wedding was in a city called Merida. My wife is from this city. So it was, Merida is not a resort town. It's just like a city, but we got married at what they call a hacienda, which is like a big, it's like it was an old rope factory that they, over the years, they've converted some of these into venues for weddings, and they being people who buy them, weddings, hotels, things like that. So a little different. Wasn't on the beach, but yeah, and the fact that my wife is from this town, she was born there and grew up there, so she, it was like a weird hybrid between like a Mexican wedding and an American wedding. So lots of fun.
One of the things that really struck me was, I almost could not relax and truly be in that vacation mindset, because I felt constantly guilty, because I'm looking around at just how hard everyone was working. And I can't call them slaves, because everyone's getting paid, but just the fact that they're working so hard and they got a smile on their face, and I just felt guilty every time I set my rainbow colada down. They're like, do you want another one? I'm like, wow, you are right, you are on it, man. You're almost like a stalker. But
I mean, I think that's like people from Mexico, they go to Cancun because that's where the money is. Like as a person who's coming from another town or whatever, you go to Cancun, that's the tourist industry. You're going there to make money or work your way up in the world, and I don't know. I mean, I think that's also when you go to Cancun, like as a tourist, the people working there, they know the expectation of as an American tourist, what you expect. And like when you go to a restaurant here, when you come to Lionbridge, you expect the same type of service, right? So, I mean, I think if you go to a bar in like Merida or some little, like a little pueblo or a town, like things are gonna linger on the table a lot longer. I mean, typical service at a restaurant is not like, the glass empties and it gets picked up. It's sort of hanging out there, or you actually like hail someone down. It's more common, you have to be a little more aggressive as a customer, but I think, I
feel like, I don't know, if I want to go somewhere, do I want to go to Mexico to have an American experience? And I mean, that's part of it for me. My wife and I are just talking about the similar thing as the Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, the people who climb Mount Everest. They're having these struggles because these guys, who are the gentlemen that climb?
The Sherpas?
The Sherpas, right? A group of people that live there. They haul heated tents, tables, gourmet food up and down. So where somebody usually takes a one-way path up the mountain through there's one part of this path. It's called the Ice Bridge, I think. They do like 40 trips. And they're serving like gourmet meals. And I was looking at my wife going, if I wanted to climb Mount Everest, I would want to carry my tent, and I would want to carry my little sleeping mat and maybe a little heater. I mean, I would want to experience climbing and doing that. If I want to go to Mexico, I don't mind going to the beach and having a rainbow colada, but I would like to do it in a more kind of rural setting, so I'm experiencing somewhat of a different culture than where I'm from.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I've been since getting married, or since meeting who's now the woman who's now my wife. And I definitely have a very different experience, like with Mexico. But I think we've also been to Cancun and stayed at like a hotel there, which is JW Marriott, which is a really nice hotel. And you know what? It's nice. You can, when you want like a hotel in Cancun, you can have it. There's also like little towns you can go to and have a very different experience, and there's nothing wrong with either one. I think we stayed. You can go like Tulum, where we sort of went after our wedding. It's definitely a resort place, but not resorts. They're like little cabins. It's not as like high volume tourism, but definitely like a place that is designed for tourism. You can go to places that are a lot more rustic. But I don't know. I mean, it's like, I guess like I've become a lot more like sort of laissez-faire with people's tourism in Mexico. I think there's like cities like Cancun probably give local people or people from all over the area like pretty solid jobs and incomes. Sure. I don't know if they're being taken advantage of by people, by owners or whoever, but definitely like, I don't know. I spent a night in Cancun, or 2 nights in Cancun like a year ago, and like was like, this is sweet. Like, it's pretty nice.
Well,
we went to a place for dinner that was not. It was like a steak place, and it was like, this is not Mexican food whatsoever. But it was cool.
I appreciate how thoughtful you are and even-handed. Do you ever swear or get angry while you're in the brewery? Do you ever?
Oh man, no, totally. I usually have like lots of equipment running. No, the nice thing about being in the brewery is that most of the time I'm here by myself. Like, and it's also the worst thing about being in the brewery is that I came from a brewery experience where I had like a few compatriots who were always like there, and we'd suffer together and like bitch and moan together, and now I don't have that right now. I'm looking at maybe hiring an assistant here in the near future, but still, it's not. It's someone who you're like training and someone who you're sort of watching over. So yeah, it's sometimes like a very like a lot of times I'm in here at 6, 7 in the morning, if not earlier, and which can be nice, but also it's like sometimes you don't have someone else who's in here like suffering with you. You're just trying to slog through, and like it's weird. I sort of stopped thinking about it, but there are like days where I'm barely talking to anyone until I get home. Like I may not talk to anyone from like 5 a.m. until I go home. At like maybe 6 or 7 at night.
Wow.
So you're just like hanging out doing your thing and swearing, yelling and swearing. But
my mom would have Tom Hanks moments. Like that movie where Tom Hanks. Like the UPS, is it UPS that crashes in the water?
He has
FedEx, right?
Or is it FedEx?
I think it's
FedEx.
I think it's FedEx.
Wilson.
Yes.
Well, the plane is. I think it's
What's
FedEx.
the name of the movie? Does anybody know?
Castaway.
Castaway.
But it's sort of weird that you think that like FedEx would endorse a movie where their plane crashes.
I totally agree.
Right.
I don't know, but that's beside the point. But
but my mom did interior painting. Just on a whim, she goes, "You know what? I'm done working in a factory. I like to paint. I quit." And then she started an interior painting business. But she was the owner and the employee.
Yeah.
So she would go to a house, set up scaffolding and paint all day. And every once in a while I'd go and I'd help, in the summertime. But I said, I go, what's the worst part of painting for you? Is it the taping? Is it the prep work? Is it the loading of stuff in the evening or the unloading of stuff in the morning? She goes, no, I find myself talking to myself throughout the day because the owners of the homes are gone. I'm just working, and there's nobody to share anything with. There's nobody to bounce any ideas off of, nobody to share a funny little experience with, or, hey, this is a goofy thought. What do you think about this? And I do that all the time to him. But it reminds me a lot of Castaway and him having those moments where there's a little bit of insanity.
Oh yeah,
when you're alone that much.
That happens here for sure.
We should get you a little Wilson ball.
Yeah, I need something to look at. Like I need something that I can just sort of put a blood handprint on. And
we can maybe do it in marker.
Maybe
we don't have to cut anybody.
One of the Cedar Ridge whiskey barrels or something.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
We can make a little scarecrow out of a whiskey barrel.
Perfect.
For him to talk to.
Do you totally off on another little thing here. Do you think that, mentioning the whiskey barrels, you must really enjoy the opportunity to team up with other, Cedar Ridge is outside Cedar Rapids, but it's definitely eastern Iowa. Mm-hmm. Other bars, refineries, things like that. Because I've heard about theirs when they were still at Ben's downtown. I remember buying their bourbon and things like that. Do you enjoy really kind of hooking up with groups around here?
Yeah, we, like Cedar Ridge is a great partner for us. I know a lot of those guys and have known them for a number of years, and just so it's cool now that having my own place can collaborate with them. I love showcasing beer that comes out of their barrels, and I'm actually going to try and deliver one of the barrels that I emptied. I'm going to deliver back to them. We're going to fill it with whiskey. So it went from like a whiskey barrel to a whiskey barrel filled with beer. Then it will go back and become a whiskey barrel that was filled with beer that will then again be filled with whiskey. But it will be like 2 years before that product is ready.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's like it's going back like to its original purpose. So like the idea is that some of the beer that was in that barrel, which was a Russian Imperial Stout, a beer we currently have on tap called Gazprom, that that barrel was emptied, there's still some residue of that beer.
There's going to be a little bit of a taste.
Yeah, probably a little bit of a maple character that's sunk into the barrel. And then they'll fill it up with whiskey, and then 2 years down the road, we'll see that product bottled. And, by them, it'll be a whiskey and, something, who knows, who knows if any of the original flavor carries over, but sure.
And that was an ale?
The beer, the Gazprom was an ale, Russian Imperial Stout.
Did you guys get done with that yet, or is that still?
No, we still got a few kegs. So that's a beer that has gone over really well. And I did a bigger batch of that. That was something where we filled up like 6 or 7 of the whiskey barrels with that beer.
Oh wow!
So that will be on. We also we reserve a few kegs back for maybe we'll break one out next year. Maybe we'll break one keg out over the next few years and just see how it's going, see how it tastes.
Cool. I know you did something for Sabbath episode. Mm-hmm. I had this great idea for a Primal Scream Pale Ale.
Cool.
Just saying. Okay, that wasn't supposed to make you laugh. That's supposed to be like for you to go, oh my God, that's fantastic.
Between you and I and our podcast and Sabbath episode where he can sell a ton of it.
Do you dream big?
Dream big or drink big?
Both.
Oh yeah.
Well, I dream big and I drink big. So
you want?
I'm just planting a seed. I'm just planting a seed.
I'll tell you what, this easily could have been a Primal Scream drink. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. I think I want to try that blonde ale. That sounds good.
Yeah, we can get a refill. It looks like we're all out of beer.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
It has like a little bit of a tartness, like lemony character, and so I think it'll be a good beer for spring and. Like not hoppy, like the Ziva Voda. Some people didn't mind think the Ziva was hoppy, but some people, you're trying to, being that we only offer beer and a couple artisan sodas and some salt lift cider, you try and offer a wide range of beers that will appeal to a lot of people. So,
what I like about your beers, I'll give you a bunch of warm and fuzzies, is how clean your beer finishes, all of them. And I think I've sampled everything. My kids came in with me, I think on your opening day, and sat with me while
I thought you were going to say even my kids thought that they all.
Opening day was a scary time.
Well, I'm number 182 on your registry.
Oh, nice.
And I enjoyed a flight, and my kids thought, that looks so fun. Can I get one? I was like, no, someday we'll come here together. But I think that's what I like. Even though I'm not a huge stout guy, and I definitely have my preferences, everything finishes really clean. And I think that's why I enjoy it instead of having a beer where it just kind of lingers for so long and then I almost have to take another drink to get a fresher flavor in my mouth. I think all your beers finish really clean and it makes it much more enjoyable. And offer more beers too.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think that's I don't know if we necessarily have our own a real definite direction of the beers that I make, but sometimes they're high alcohol, sometimes they're low, sometimes they're hoppy, sometimes they're malty. But we're sort of starting off small. It's nice. You can sort of find your way before you really have to commit to something like a bottle or a can. So we only offer 2 beers full time: the Workman's Compensation and the Ziva Voda, which is the Pilsner. Everything else just sort of we roll through it. Most of the time we're not with the old number 17 stout. That's what I'm drinking right now. I did a second batch of it because I knew it would sell really quick. And it has, so we're going to be coming out with the second batch probably next week. And so that will hopefully carry us through St. Patrick's Day. But I'm not really sure anymore. I don't really know what to expect. Hopefully we still have a keg left for St. Patrick's Day.
I was going to ask you about that because you made the potato beer specifically for the Sapid Apido.
Sapid episode.
Don't
be me.
Irish Hoolie, right? That was specifically for that.
It wasn't for the Hoolie. It was just for all of it was for all of St. Patrick's Day. I've been calling it the St. Patrick's Day season.
Okay.
So I'm trying to work with inside this season. As the Christmas season, I don't know what other seasons, the Thanksgiving season. This is the Irish. I feel like it is in Cedar Rapids with talking to the people who are involved with the Sapadapaso. It is like a season to them. So
when you realize there was a whole section of Cedar Rapids that's no longer there anymore, where 380 comes through, and there's whole sections of the city that have changed because it's just gentrification, so to speak. But I mean, it's a huge part of Cedar Rapids is that whole Irish district down there. The one we think of as the Irish district is super small compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, and there was a brewery. Well, where the interstate is now, there was like the Magnus Brewing Company was there, and that was like the original like Cedar Rapids brewery, and they closed down because of Prohibition, but it was demolished because of 380, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's still like bottles, around the city. We're really fortunate because the History Center is moving, and they're donating a lot of stuff to us. We're going to build a case for all this Cedar Rapids beer memorabilia.
Oh, neat.
So it's going to be in our tap room, and people can come and check it out. So I don't know all what it will be, but it will be, memorabilia of this Magnus Brewing Company, of just Cedar Rapids beer history in general. So pretty excited to have that.
Well, I remember going to Dubuque Star Brewery the first time I ever went up there, and that's pretty neat to see, like for lack of a better word, a cauldron that goes right through the floor. You can see it from the bottom, and you go up top, you can see it. It's such a humongous thing. Is that where they brewed the beer at? Is that
I've been to the building too, but it's been a while. But they used to design breweries, so it was like a top-down situation. So like the very top floor would be your raw materials, and as you brewed the beer, you would go down levels, eventually ending in the basement where the beer would be stored because it was underground and it would be a constant temperature.
Damn,
so
that's smart. Holy
potentially
cow.
the cave, so like there would be like 55, 60 degrees all year round, and your beer could be stored in the whatever oak barrels, maybe not dissimilar to these, a little smaller, and then they'd bring it up in smaller containers to sell and deliver. So
wasn't there a recent tavern that was unearthed because they were working on an interstate exit?
They were caves, beer caves.
Beer caves.
Yeah, but you can't go. These ones you can't go in. I think there's some in Iowa City that they actually have video of people going in them. But yeah, these ones I think they're filling them in because they're just unsafe. So it'd be cool to see. I was hoping maybe they would come to me and be like, "You're a brewer. We need to show you this." And it didn't happen. I had dreams of daydreams about when I'm here by myself talking to myself that the city historians or this whoever the mayor would come to me like, "You are a brewer in this town. We should show you these beer caves."
Where are these beer caves at? Where are they?
It's under the interstate. I think over by by Coe College.
Oh, really?
No, by Coe College, St. Luke's area.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's that one. Yeah, I don't know if I can
just Google beer caves.
I'm going to totally Google
Iowa.
I've never heard of that. That's
see if you can get in there before they fill them up because it's super dangerous.
Well, I was going to say I should probably go and not you because we need your beer. So.
But you can wear a body cam.
That goes along perfectly with there probably was a building there at one point, and they did the top-down method, and they stored their beer in what was like a cave to keep it cool.
Yeah.
And then over time, the building went away, and
it was a cave by a river, so it'd be water flowing by, keeping it, probably water fed from a spring maybe at some point, so it kept it really cool. And so it would be cool. It'd be awesome if we had our own beer cave. We have a basement, maybe that sort of.
You can call it the beer cave. That's pretty sweet.
It would be neat though, with all of the modern technology that you use. If somebody was to be able to incorporate an old school, old-fashioned system in a modern day brewery, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, some modern breweries I think still use beer caves. I think up in Michigan, Founders, I think they have a cave somewhere I've heard rumors about this, but if you think about it, a cave is way better than having to pay for the electricity to cool my tanks. Essentially, I keep all my tanks. I can change temperatures on them, but a cave is one constant temperature, and I don't have to pay anyone to keep it that. So it'd be a big cost savings if you had a cave, even in modern day.
Yeah. Do you feel like you'll get to the point where you want a can? Do you want a bottle? Is that what you'd like to get to, or are you obviously you're enjoying every step of the process?
Yeah, but. I mean, I like. There's a lot of pressure from grocery stores around and people I know asking when we're going to start bottling or canning, and I just don't. Having been in that world of packaging brewery of having to make bottles and cans, I know that it is not something you go into lightly because it involves it's a lot of quality assurance. It's a lot of once that product leaves your hands, how is it taken care of? Where does it sit on the shelf? Are people buying it? Are people not buying it? Are people shaking it up and putting it in the sunshine for a day and then opening it and being like, this beer sucks? And you have to sort of come to terms with that, and that's going to happen no matter what. But, you need an infrastructure in place to move your beer once it goes on the shelf. And right now, we just hired a sales guy and a delivery guy, which is awesome because it basically frees up an entire day or 2 days a week for me. That I was at least 1.5 days roughly. And so I can devote that time back to beer making. But we're not at a point where I'm willing to entertain bottling or canning. Maybe someday down the road, but I think it's something you go into real carefully.
I bet.
And that's why we have right now we're doing a lot of kegging, and that a keg, the vessel that of a keg is something that I feel confident in taking to a bar or restaurant, and that we're giving people a really high quality beer with every pour, and I feel confident that that's happening. With the cans and bottles, I think I would not really know what to expect, and so it's baby steps, little movement.
And are you finding? I mean, a lot of restaurants have opened recently in Cedar Rapids. Recently, being the last year, to 5 years, we've had quite a few restaurants open up around here. And I know that we talked with Andy Schumacher from Cobble Hill, talking about your beer as well. He's just in the Gazette as well.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah, he's a pretty...
And his wife too, Carrie, is great.
They're both pretty cool people.
Yeah.
Are you finding... I would assume that you've had a lot of restaurants that are just saying, hey, you're from Cedar Rapids, you've got to get you in here. Are you feeling that pretty good?
Yeah, I think local is selling, but it's not just local. It obviously has to... something can be bad and local and still sell, but it won't sell for that long. I think it may be initially. So you still have to have a very high quality product.
Sure.
I think I never would say hey, we're local, buy us. That is an extra, that is a nice thing, but first of all, it has to be as good, if not better, than anything else you could get. And, if local can help sell it on top of that, I think that's great. But I would never just come in and say, hey, it's local, buy us. That's
sure.
It's a pity move, Yeah. You got to make good beer, or good whatever you're going to make.
Sure.
Nobody's just Cobble Hills local will go there.
Right.
Andy and Carrie run a fantastic place, and they have great staff, and so we're actually, to plug it, we're doing a beer dinner there on the 31st of March. It'll be I think a 4-course with a social, sort of a social hour at the beginning with a beer and some snacks, and then sit down for a 4-course meal.
I think it's already sold out. I think.
Is it really?
I think it's sold out. I looked at it because I
hear about it for the first time from Quinn, and it's already sold out.
I'm sorry, because I looked into it.
That would have been a great date night.
Sold out.
Yeah, the 31st of March. Check that. There might be a few.
You never know. Somebody might have backed out.
I think any time at that place is a good date night. Cobble Hill.
For sure.
Well, they do great things, and I think they're people that they started earlier than us, but I think they're very unique. They're something that's come in Cedar Rapids that is a very different, very different concept than maybe what we've had before. Maybe not necessarily, but I think as a business owner myself coming in, I sort of. We talk about trials and tribulations as people coming in, not necessarily doing the same thing as what's been before, not offering everything. I think that's, it's, people would come into Lionbridge initially and be like, I'll get a bottle of Bud Light, and, and I would just be like, we carry our beers, and they'd be like, well, you're going to go out of business. And, so that's a tough thing to deal with. There are a lot of people who are like, why are you not offering everything? Where's your liquor? Where's your this? Where's your that? And, part of that is a licensing deal, but also focusing on one thing and trying to do it well is what we want to do. And I think, it's okay. I think it's okay that you don't want to necessarily come here if you want a different type of food or atmosphere. If you want to come to a brewery, we're here. If you have family in town that wants to come to a brewery, we're here. And I think we hit a lot of things for people, but we don't hit everything, and that's okay. There's lots of great places out there that are carrying our beer, and we're happy to send you to those bars and restaurants that carry our beer for another type of experience.
Sure. And I think that part of, like you said earlier, the key to Cobble Hill and obviously I think your beer is that it's good quality. I mean, I think that's the biggest selling point, and the reason why I would go back to Cobble Hill is because the small appetizer he gave us, besides them being wonderful people, was wonderful food. I was just completely caught off guard by it. I came here I was excited to have craft beer, but I was also excited to be drinking great beer. And so I think those are the things that are going to really make the difference in any business around here. Is what you're doing or what you're planning to do is the best quality that you can.
That and that you've injected yourself into the local establishments. You know, the local businesses, the local events. That's kind of a neat thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we try and collaborate with with vendors, people are producers at the New Bow City Market. We use meats and breads and cheeses and things like that from producers over there. We just this spring we're a CSA drop-off point for Bass Farms. That's
awesome!
Outside of Mount Vernon, so they're going to be coming here and dropping off produce and eggs that people can come here. We're also teaming up where those people, in addition to their produce and eggs, they can get a punch card for very inexpensive or discounted growler fills as a perk of coming here to pick up their produce. So I mean, it's all about, for small business owners, I think it's huge to tap into each other's communities.
Well, what a great kind of support.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a wonderful support amongst all you entrepreneurs, so to speak. So.
Yeah, and I just met the guys from Bass Farms not too long ago, but I think they're really cool people who are. I think we have a very similar vision for how we want to grow and market and just and we're both very, very proud of our community and also of the business that we have. So yeah, it's exciting to get going with them and just seeing where that can go with using some of their produce or herbs in beers that we make, and and just there's a lot of other producers out there that that we utilize or will utilize, or people we've just had initial conversations with that could be great relationships down the road.
Did Cedar Rapids in particular, I mean, were you seeing a need here? There's not really a good sized brewery in Cedar Rapids, and you were wanting to come home? Or what kind of initiated you getting back here and starting this? And what was a dream you've always had, or how'd that all get started?
It was a skill set that I had that I thought that was needed in Cedar Rapids. I mean, if you think about it's a bigger city. It's not big, but it's a city that's big enough that it should have had a few breweries already, and it didn't. And so, there's Granite City and there was Third Base. Granite City is a different entity entirely.
Yes.
And they're sort of a brewery, but not really. And they're very good at what they do. But they're not what you would call a grain to glass brewery. They're not brewing. They don't have a brewer on site that is crafting recipes, and that is, I think, what people want, And so,
I like Granite City, but it's a chain restaurant. I mean,
I just went there a couple of weeks ago with my wife, and we had dinner, and it's cool to go see what's going on, And I think that we've had some good meals there, but it's a different beast entirely than a craft brewery, and so the kind of brewery that I experienced in Colorado, I wanted to bring it back here, and I think that the local craft brewery market share is still pretty low. I think in the next year or two, you're going to see a lot of breweries opening. There's a couple that are going to open up here in Cedar Rapids. Probably, you hear rumors, but there's the rumor of, definitely probably 2 to 3 are going to open, and the rumor of 5
of your size brewery, like a serious straight up beer.
And that's the thing too. Everyone has their own vision. I think one is going to be probably more like a bar restaurant with a small brewing operation, smaller than mine. Another one is not going to have a tap room, so it won't even be a place where people can come have a beer, or it will just be a place where they distribute kegs. Another one will be way bigger than what I'm doing or anyone else. Bigger than about what anyone else is doing in Iowa, and we'll have a tap room, but will be mostly wholesale. So yeah, it's creating a business plan for a brewery. There's a lot of options about what you want to be. Some guys, they don't want a ton of startup cash, so they're brewing beer at, like 30 gallons at a time, which to me sounds like a nightmare. But, I want to be able to make enough beer that I can sort of come and talk to you guys for a minute. If I was making beer 30 gallons at a time, I wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be brewing beer probably right now, which is nice to be able to do other things too.
Sure.
Because once the process starts, there's nothing you can do until
yeah, you sort of have to keep brewing. And if you're if you're making 30 gallons at a time, I mean, when I brew here, I make over 300 gallons.
Oh,
so
wow.
it allows you that flexibility. Like I wanted, and I have a tank, and I will have more tanks here relatively shortly that are over 600 gallons. So, you're producing a lot more volume, and it gives you some efficiencies, and it allows you to, for me to go do a promotion or hang out in the tap room and have a beer with some people, and so having that freedom, and, a lot of people would come in this brewery and be like, this brewery is so small. And other people come in this brewery and this brewery is ginormous. And it's really a matter of perspective.
Sure.
It matters who you're talking to. And for me, it's a good size. I thought about what kind of brewery I wanted to start for, years. And, I'm pretty pleased with this size. And, I don't think I would want to go too much bigger initially, but.
When you get those other tanks, those 600 gallon tanks, did you plan for that next step, or is that something where you're going to have to take out these tanks and then try to retrofit?
They're just going to fit in 3 tanks against this wall back here, and it was planned, but I didn't quite know how soon. I think it's sooner than I actually thought, but fortunately we were doing well enough that it's something we can purchase and install. You always think about, well, maybe I should have just bought them initially because you would have saved a bunch of money on freight and shipping and all that. But, it's good. It was good. We started off real small as far as capacity, but, you sort of made it for a year, and now it's time to look at adding a little bit more to move forward. I hope our next expansion will hold us for a while. It's all, having the ability to do more wholesaling and keg sales, will be great because the market in Cedar Rapids is very good for us. The market in Iowa City is great. We haven't even really tapped into a few of the other close communities that are out there.
How was Burfest for you? How did that all turn out? Was it a good turnout for you?
It was best, talking to you guys out there.
Oh, thanks.
But no, it was great. We blew through our beer pretty quick. And, it was nice. It's nice, to see that, that recognition of not of doing anything well, but just the recognition that some people know who you are. Because when you first open, it's oh, I've never heard of you. Where are you? I follow beer a lot. I've never heard of you. But then now it's no longer a matter of people don't know of you. They just, there's some people well, I've heard of you, I haven't been. But then there's also people who I want to try what Lionbridge has to offer. Because we won a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival, which is huge for us in our first, we'd only been open 6-7 months. And the Great American Beer Festival is one of probably the top 2 contests in the United States of America that has the most validity as far as winning. And so to win one in your first year, let alone to win one ever, is a huge deal. And so the workman's compensation took gold, which means essentially that it is the best example of that style of beer in the country, which is amazing because it really gave us a lot of clout, a lot of people who maybe they came back and tried everything again with a whole new. Whether you like it or not, people are very biased. Human beings are very biased, and they have, maybe they tried it before we won an award, and they didn't taste as good as when they tried it after it won an award. And that, and that's huge. Getting that award, and it helped. That beer sells like crazy now, to accounts, and we moved through, about twice as beer, that workman's comp about twice as fast as before, and before October. So it's amazing. It's kind of silly, but it's amazing,
It was validation for me because I had been talking about you really have to try this workman's comp. My brother-in-law, who was the clacker at Burfest, I told him, I said, you're really going to like it. And he was just like, holy cow, this is really great beer. I'm like, yeah, they got to go.
And he lives in Germany.
And he lives in Germany and goes to these beer festivals. And he goes to Belgium all the time and goes to these beer festivals. And he really, really liked it.
And that's what I tell people now, like the people who I was like, you liked it before, like you have such great taste. all the bars and restaurants that ordered it before and the people who come in and drink it, I'm like, you guys are, just totally, just be like, butter them up.
Yeah, did you realize you have a world-class palate?
Yeah, I know.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
so I still drink Miller Lite. So, I mean, once in a while, you want to have something.
I think Miller Lite might have won a medal at the Great American Beer Fest for like light lager too. They have that category. So I think they might have got a silver.
Well, I remember when you were talking about the like microbrewery kind of, the phenomenon's kind of starting. I remember when I had my brother-in-law bring me a case of Fat Tire because they came from California through Iowa to visit us. And he stopped and took a tour of the brewery and said, hey, you're really going to like this beer. And I had never had it because their sales route or whatever stopped before the state of Iowa or their region is. And I remember like going, why can't we get this beer everywhere? What are these things stopping us? Is that something that you would, obviously you're still kind of, local and things like that. But is that normal that beer can only be sold in a certain region?
Well, I guess you have a reach as a brewery, and like, can you represent, like if you're in New Belgium, how well can you represent New York? You need to hire, like if you're going to go into New York or wherever, you need to hire someone to like be there. Like you need to hire people who can sell your beer in those regions. I mean, I feel like going forward, there's fewer and fewer opportunities for the type of breweries that are the New Belgiums or the Oscar Blues or the Sam Adams or, that are quickly becoming national brands. I think they're all grabbing for pieces of the pie because I think the national brand, and that maybe is a good thing, I think Lionbridge could become like a small regional brand, potentially like maybe 2-3 states someday. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we reach a point where we're like, hey, you know what? Eastern Iowa, we're doing well. Business is good. We enjoy what we're doing. And that's it. But if you go into packaging or canning, you could look at it going into an Illinois or something. But I mean, those are all kinds of questions you have to deal with later. But I think as a brewery, you have to decide, you have a reach. And if you go outside that reach, people don't know your brand. People may not care. How do you care if you're in wherever, if you're in Pennsylvania, how do you care about a brewery from Colorado when you have a bunch of other breweries from around your area that you can buy off the shelf? There's way more options than people even know what to do with anymore. How do you command shelf space? There's only so much shelf space in a grocery store, or wherever you're at. So like, how do you even like make a decision as a consumer? Like, I don't know. I barely even know what beer to buy anymore in the store. Well,
I mean, you go to Hy-Vee, there's hundreds of bottles of beer.
I was actually just going to ask you that. Like with the podcast, with what we do, what we started out doing with just being audio, and then we went to audio and video on YouTube, dealing with the different processes to put together that package. I now cannot look at a commercial or a movie or anything without somewhere in the back of my mind going, that's a great angle. I like where that camera is
at. Or good editing. Yeah.
That's great editing. How did they get the sound like that? I'm actually paying attention to the really low, quiet music playing in the background to kind of make the whole scene together. When you go into a grocery store and you see all these beers, two questions. When you see all these beers, one, are you intimidated at all by the huge variance of the different flavors, of the different options? How can I possibly put my fingerprint on this market? And then two, can you do you really enjoy your product like you used to? Or is it an enjoyment at a different level.
Yeah, it's so my degree that I got at Colorado State was poetry degree. So I got an English degree, poetry degree, and I think maybe in certain respects it helps me because it allows me to like look at a beer from like a fresh new angle, or to like see it to see like a Pilsner, or see like a really like a lot of times in this day and age, like the beers that get the most traction are beers that are like 20% alcohol, aged in whiskey barrels that, are like sour, and, like it has to be something extreme. But, like I can look at a Pilsner and see like I have some, maybe it's because I studied poetry, but I have some romantic vision of that beer. But like to go into a grocery store, it's tough to like, when I have a great beer, like it is like, it can be a really beautiful experience, and it doesn't matter what the style is necessarily. But more often than not, it's not it's not a giant alcohol beer, or like a 10-20% alcohol beer or whatever. But it's tough to choose. Like I barely go to grocery stores anymore. I should do it more, honestly. I'm sort of failing in that respect, just to try other people's products. Going into the grocery store and just buying, like Lionbridge will buy me some beer if I want to drink it, but I almost don't even have the time to drink as much beer as I should. I don't think my wife would allow that.
And you're having conversations with Wilson and
yeah. But I should be buying more beer. Every time I talk to someone about this, I should be like, God, I need to go and like go to Hy-Vee right after this and buy.
It's one of the things that this podcast has actually done for me. Two things. One, I thought every place in this country is exactly the same. What's so great about any city? That's kind of blown out of the water now. I've grown from that.
Yes, you have.
Right? Just from being aware of what's going on here in Cedar Rapids. I wasn't aware of all the little things that happen here in Cedar Rapids. And two, I was stuck with Busch beer. I only had Busch beer. Every time I would do a podcast, I just drink Busch, and which is fine. But the more people we had on, and the different breweries that we went to, I started trying different things. I'm like, oh, that's not bad. That tastes a lot different than Busch.
Yeah.
I like that quite a bit. Hey, and let's have a podcast and we have 10 different drinks, completely different. Just like, let's talk about the different styles, and I'm going to try that. Ooh, not my thing, but that was one of the two things that have really kind of, if you're not opening yourself up to that, you're not aware of the different possibilities, which I wasn't doing. And I would, if I was a brewer, I would be nervous. I would be nervous to go into a grocery store and just be like,
yeah. But the thing that's crazy is like, there's so many people who like want to put their beer in bottles and put it on the shelves. But like what I do most of the time when I go into a grocery store is like, what brands can you trust? Like, do you want to throw down? And that's the thing that makes me fearful as a guy. Maybe will bottle or can beer in the future. Is like, if you want to risk $10 or $12 of your money on a 6-pack of beer, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but like if you do that, like what guarantee do you have that it is a good product in the end of the day, and you didn't just throw money out on something that's old? Or maybe it was sitting there for like 8 months or 10 months.
Sure.
And it's really old. And maybe you don't even know what old tastes like and you love it. I don't know. Maybe.
I never knew what old tasted like.
I mean, to me, like I've drank beer across the spectrum. And so like I know as soon as I like taste the first drop of beer, I know if it's old. Like I know what old
really?
Beer. Yeah. I know what old beer.
So that's the difference in perspective from you now drinking a beer.
Yeah.
And you before you did brewery.
Yeah,
you take a drink, and that's one of those. Well, that's one of those subtle little things.
I think you can probably be, you can be swayed by the if that beer is rare or if that beer is something that's sought after. Maybe you like it more because of that. But I don't know. Most of the time, buying an unknown quantity of craft beer off the shelf, like a 6-pack, maybe you've never heard of, or maybe it's a small brewery that you know a lot more about the brewery that you're buying. Like, if it's a risk. Like, sometimes I'll buy a 6-pack of something. I'm like, this is a risk. This could be a bad deal. And then if I buy, some breweries are going to like having like craft breweries are getting like a born on date or something, or like a drink before date. And that, that's a little better for sure. But yeah, a lot of small breweries don't they don't have the money or the ability to put that on a 6-pack. And so you sort of know, like, if I'm going to buy 6-pack from Brewery X, I got to be ready for something bad. And potentially it's just like something I'll just take to a party and leave those 5 other beers at the party. And, I drank
That's
the one.
what you do to me. That's what you do. That's where those beers come from.
And I'm like taking the other 5 to the party and be like, here's my contribution. I'm going to drink this other beer.
You had said time and money for those, for the breweries that try to go that route and put their beer into a bottle. Do you think maybe another one would be fear?
For what?
Well, maybe. I mean, if you're a new brewer and you're putting beer in a bottle for the first time and you're getting your bottle out to a grocery store or wherever, and you're like, I hope this sells. I really want this to sell. Well, if you put drink by and you're a brand new,
I know, it's bad.
And you're a brand new somebody, and somebody goes over there and goes, I haven't seen this. Maybe it was sitting on the shelf for 6 months. I don't know. A long time. And they look at the bottle and they're like, oh shit, I was supposed to drink that 3 months. So there's money, there's time of doing those things, and then there's maybe a little bit of fear of people not doing it because, oh God, I don't want people to be scared off by.
But I think most breweries, most smaller breweries, other than like maybe the big national craft brands and the big national macro breweries, they're not putting that kind of dating on. It just it doesn't make sense financially. You don't have the ability to pull all that beer from the shelf. And maybe this is like boring information that I'm giving right now, but it's definitely not something that a small brewery is going to add to their packaging. Because
it's almost like a liability.
Well, if you don't have representation, like if you don't have a dude who's at the store or in that region who's going around like setting up promotions, setting up like, hey, do you know about brand X? Do you know about what we're doing? Do you know about this new beer? You should buy it. We have these like, beautiful women in like, short, skimpy outfits.
At the college towns.
Yeah, like I think Lionbridge needs girls like that. That's our next move. Our next investment is to hire girls.
If you like, we can be part of the interview process.
I
mean, we can bring ladies in and we can ask them questions.
Girls. You know girls.
Well, I don't know any girls like that.
We can start going to the college campuses. I'm just saying, if I have a legit reason that I can give my wife, saying, all of us Quinn is hiring us to go do interviews, honey. There's nothing I can do.
It's a paying gig, baby.
Yeah, right. I mean, one of his requirements, not mine, is that they're topless.
I was going to say, along with the whole beer scenario, I worked at a coffee shop for a while when I was in college, and I got to the point where I couldn't smell coffee because I was in it so much. I didn't drink a lot of coffee because I was there sampling things. And have you ever had moments where you're just like, I'm kind of bearded out just for whatever reason?
No, a lot of times when I go home, like I'm bearded out, like I'll go home and make dinner and may have a glass of red wine or like something else. Like, a lot of times when I leave the brewery, and that's another thing, I should be trying new beers from other breweries, but a lot of times I'll go home, make dinner, and have a glass of wine or like something else, or just like, I don't know, tea even. But, it's something where you can get a little beard out. Even, like going out, I like to go out to the bars and restaurants to serve our beer. Like sometimes I'll just go out and do a circuit, and hit them all. And, Anna, my wife, will drive me around and just like, I'll just be like drinking beers, buying beers for other people who want to drink our beer. And but like you totally, like I can be like, dude, I'm done, no more beer. And so I enjoy like all of God's fermented beverages, and distilled beverages for that matter. So like whiskeys and mead is one of my favorite things. It's a honey wine, so pretty fun. And but it's interesting to like just always sort of be training yourself on different, and I guess you do, like in that sense, you're always looking at it as an educational experience, which is sometimes tough. Some of the most enjoyable experiences with beer is when you can sort of, you sort of like put away your brewer's cap and just be like, this is really good. And then that is something that, I think, big brewers trying to achieve with that, just like the drinkability. Small, like craft brewers are trying to achieve it with drinkability. Like ultimately you want people to buy like 2 beers, and like you want it to buy it not because they really necessarily know why they're buying it. They're buying it because they like it so much that they just like want to get another one.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, I think the idea too is that as long as you're enjoying what you're doing is the important part. We talked with Steve Shriver, who owns Ecolips here in town. Yeah. And he talked to us about us getting a studio at some point, which we would love to do when we can afford it, would be to you work while you're there. And then when you leave that place, you're done. So you're efficient, you do your job the best you can, and then you walk away and you're able to enjoy your life a little bit. So I think as long as you're enjoying going to these restaurants and trying those beers, that's great.
But that's the funny thing about, for me, like leaving here, like socializing for me, going out to a bar or restaurant is still sort of a work, thing. It's like me, like my work, like going out. What do people talk about when they go out? Maybe they talk about what they're drinking. If they're drinking beer, well, then we're talking about beer. And so like the work doesn't necessarily end. One of the funny things, like about going down to Mexico for my wedding was that we went to a place where like outside of Cedar Rapids, Iowa City area, where no one cared, or may I say gave a shit about talking about beer. And so I just didn't talk about beer for like, a week, which was like insane, but it was awesome. It was awesome to like not talk about beer. You talked about other things. You talked about, the sun. You talked about the beach. You talked about the book we were reading. You talked about these things. You just didn't talk about beer, which was a really surreal experience after like all I do is talk about beer, even when I'm socializing, because you talk to other people and they're like, how's the brewery? How's this going? And, which I love, like it's my life, and I will never, talk bad about it or say anything, because I do love it, but it was interesting to get away from that.
I was going to say, I have a suggestion of just saying that you were an English major. You could probably have people say, oh, I'm sorry. So what do you do for a living?
That's the funny thing. It's like,
a degree in poetry, you got the same job offers as the people that get a degree in romance literature,
which is no job offers.
That's a tough gig.
Well, what is it from Roadhouse? He got a degree in philosophy.
Oh, yeah.
So that he could think deep thoughts about being unemployed.
But then he could beat the shit out of people.
Right.
That would, yeah. I mean, basically, a lot of my life is based off of Patrick Swayze's philosophy from Roadhouse.
Pain don't hurt.
Yeah,
that one.
Pain don't hurt. Exactly.
Hey, I've asked Todd this many times. But why do you think mead, beer from honey, has not had more...
Is it beer from honey?
It's just mead.
I'm sorry, mead.
Yeah,
the alcohol made from honey.
Yeah.
Why isn't that more of a footprint?
I think it's a tough thing to market. Probably like, it should be great. I mean, cider is really catching on, I think, as a product too, as it's gluten free, and mead is gluten free, and I think it's gluten free. Pretty sure. I'd have to look into that. I'm pretty sure it's gluten free. But
is it the fact that the bees are unionized and they don't work as hard in those winter months because they're just lazy fucks?
Yeah, that's gotta be. And where do you buy mead around here?
Well, I think it's a much smaller niche. Like craft beer is a niche, cider is even a smaller niche, and mead is like even smaller. So I think it's
the only reason I ask. My wife will have a beer, and she usually goes with. This is how my wife picks out a good beer when she goes to the grocery store. She looks at the price tag and goes, "Oh, cheapest." Boom, that's what she buys. But as soon as she takes a glassful, her nose, her cheeks, her forehead, everything turns bright red.
Yeah.
She has an allergic reaction.
Yeah.
So I didn't know I wonder if you could have a great head of steam on with something other than beer. Maybe there's gluten.
But yeah, you have to sell it. You have to market it. It's probably tough. Yeah, I don't know. There's that woman out there is my wife. I'm going to let her in.
I was just going to say this.
I'll be right back.
Sorry.
Yeah, go for it. Just let her in. That's cool.
Yeah, totally.
We'll see what happens.
And we can finish up too, Quinn. We're at an hour and 25 minutes, so we can finish up. So.
All right. I'll just ask him if there's anything else coming up. in the future.
Yeah, I'm down with that. And then we'll just get his shit back in order and back up and go.
Back up.
I'm totally down with that. I want to meet his Latin lover.
Is his mic coming off really good?
Yeah. A little bit of echo.
Sure.
You're going loud and quiet, and so is he, because when he leans forward, he actually gets his mouth right in front of the line of sight of that mic. So I've adjusted things here and there. So
SP.
That's it.
And then that will take you to our Indiegogo thing. And the positive about Indiegogo is whatever donations you receive, you get. Whereas with Kickstarter, you set a goal. If you don't reach that goal, all those donations go back to the people.
Sure.
It was hard watching that number disappear.
Yeah, one of the things that Todd had to do was he sent emails out to everybody that donated to our first Kickstarter account and said, "Hey, we didn't meet our goal, but thank you very much for your donation. Could you please go to Indiegogo?" Because we're trying to, 1, pay off equipment that we've already got, and 2, save up for other stuff so that we can do like live shows and shows that we can turn around, and send out to YouTube right away.
Right.
Sure.
Within a day. Instead of that 15 to 20 hour edit time, it's just an instant thing. So
enough about us. I was going to say, we talked to some people at Burfest, and at least 2 or 3 gentlemen said that the reason they got into beer making is it was the way they could drink when they were in high school. And I was pissed because I didn't think of that earlier.
Yeah, it was easier to get the ingredients to brew the beer than it was for you to go out and try to buy it illegally.
I feel like I'm so behind.
Yeah.
Behind.
You can buy barley, you can buy hops, water comes out of the tap, yeast, pretty easy to get a hold of. You combine them all together.
How popular of a kid would I have been?
Oh my God.
If when I was 16, I just started buying ingredients and people were like, "Hey, let's have a kegger. Where are we going to get our beer?" Matt's got
a fake. No one. It doesn't matter.
When I heard people say that, I was like, I'm so behind. I was so behind in so many aspects of puberty, so many things in high school. I should have been brewing beer. How I never thought about that.
Poor Tom.
Really frustrates me.
I don't think I was that forward thinking either. I had a fake ID, and I'd buy like 30 racks of High Life, at one of the local convenience stores here. I had like a Lucky hat I would always wear and go out and buy 30 racks of High Life, and I was like 17.
Did it say Lucky, or it was just a hat that was Lucky?
It was a hat that was my lucky underage beer buying hat.
It made you look older.
Supposedly, but I can't. I swear, I'm sure most people didn't really even care as long as I offered them something that said my name was John Brown and my fake ID name was John Brown.
That's awesome.
And it worked.
You had success with it.
I got turned down once, but they didn't take the ID. I had to leave the beer on the counter and leave. But then within like 2 or 3 months of turning 21, I just stopped using it because I felt like I'd pushed my luck far enough. I'd only been turned down once, since having this ID at 17 years old. I had 100% success rate, except for that one time. And then I was just like, this can't go on. Something's going to happen. In the last few months, something's going to happen. I have to stop. And so I didn't, I just let it go. And then, that was the end of that.
I had a fake ID once. It didn't last very long. I got off work. I was working night shift. I was working a night shift right out of high school at a factory. And there was a bar right next to the factory. And if you wore your work shirt into the bar, that was like your ID, right?
Yeah.
We'd get served. So here I am at 8 o'clock in the morning, drunk. And everybody wants to go to dancers. Okay.
Are they open? Were they open?
They were open. Wow. Yeah, thank you.
Are they closed now?
Were they open back then?
One thing I'll say is that
they were open back then.
I think Millstream is the dancers still open, or they're still open, right?
I think they are still open because we drove by there the other day, and it was me, my wife, and my 3 kids.
A little different scenario.
And my 3 kids said, "Hey, look, Mommy, you would love that place."
Oh yes,
because it said Dancers Ranch.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little jealous because I believe Millstream beer is on I think there's bottles of Millstream beer available at Dancer's Ranch.
Oh, really?
Like as Lion Bridge Brewing Company, I think we aspire to have our beer available at Dancer's Ranch.
So I'm at the first bar who didn't card me because I was wearing my work shirt, and all my older friends who I worked with were like, "Yeah, well, let's go to Dancers." I'm like, "I don't have an ID. I'm 18, and there's no way I'm getting in." "No, we got an ID." They give me somebody's ID. I'm like, "Great. Do I look like this guy?" At this point, I'm not even looking at the picture. I'm not looking at anything on the ID.
This was like 9 a.m.?
Yeah, it's 8, 9 a.m. I'm drunk. And we go to Dancers, just a group of us, right? And I go to the doorman, give him the ID, and he looks at me, looks at the ID, and he just goes, "What's your name?" He doesn't ask. Yeah, I was like studying the social security number. I was studying like the address. "What's your name?" And I just turned around and I walked out. That was it. So I didn't have a very good success rate with my fake ID.
Never had one.
Yeah, no, well, I got lucky. I got one. Supposedly the guy looked like me, except he was, when I got it at 17, this guy was 24. So it was some ID that was, I don't know, I think one of my brother's friends was a bouncer at a bar and took it from someone and
gave it to you.
Gave it to me.
Good job.
Recycling through the bouncer.
So it was great, but that being said, I was not necessarily I was not like a consumer that was looking for craft beer at 17. I was whatever worked. I don't even know where that started.
I grew up I spent some time in Palo Alto, California, and East Palo Alto is a really horrible place. It's like just like across the tracks, perfect scenario of really downtrodden area. Had the highest per capita.
The outsiders, a bunch of greasers.
Yeah, we were the socias going.
You were the socias?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had my herringbone gold necklace, everything. So there was it's true, and a mock turtleneck.
And your white really Adidas with the white stripes.
Nope,
because you
I didn't do that far. Didn't go that far.
Okay.
But I remember that's where you would go because the liquor stores there were just trying to make money, and so if you wanted to go, you went to EPA and went and tried to go into their local establishment and try to score some beer, try to score some wine coolers back in the day.
Oh yeah,
some Bartles and James.
Boone's Farm or something.
Yeah. Oh no, we're socias, so we don't do Boone's Farm. We do Bartles and James, something sensitive and light, and refreshing, so to speak. And just kidding. But I remember walking out of a liquor store one time with 2 bags full of stuff that I had just happened to score with the right counter person, and as I walked out, 6 or 7 guys just went around me. Whoa. And I remember standing going, okay, this is not going to end well. And this guy goes, why don't you give me your bags? And I'm like, I'm not giving you my bags. He goes, well, I just might take something out of there. I'm like, you can take something out of there if you want, but I'm not giving you all my alcohol. And they all reached in and each grabbed something, and I was left with about a bag's worth. And for me, I got liquor and I had my life still in my hands. So I was happy.
Well done.
Happy.
Well done.
Yeah. And I was a little skinny fucker back then too. So.
But it wasn't any craft beer.
No craft beer.
Thank God. Thank God you didn't lose the
that would have been the travesty right there. Is Samuel Adams it's still considered a craft beer, isn't it? Or are they too big now?
I believe. I don't know what their volume is.
What is the definition of a microbrewery? Because you mentioned microbrewery about Fat Tire. Yeah.
At the time, I considered them that because they were not local. Kind of, I could get it anywhere.
Right, but I'm like, what is the definition of a microbrewery, and what is the definition of a?
Well, there's definitions within. There's this umbrella definition of craft brewery, which is, and I'll probably screw it up, but it is you're producing under 6 million barrels, which is a lot of barrels.
Wow.
They actually expanded the definition to include Sam Adams because it helped pump up our numbers, a lot of craft breweries. But within that, there's a definition of microbrewery. A microbrewery, I believe, is producing. It's like somewhere like 15,000 barrels to X amount of barrels, but then there's regional craft brewery, which is they're producing over, I don't know, I want to say over like 50 or 60,000 barrels. Like, I don't know them all, but there's definitions like what Lionbridge is considered is like I think we're considered like a small or very small, packet, like production brewery. So we're not considered a brew pub. There's also a brew pub definition, but Lionbridge is considered a production brewery because we keg everything and we wholesale. But there's also brew pubs. Like a lot of the breweries in Iowa are brew pubs because they're restaurants that also make beer.
Because Quarter Barrel is going to be a brew pub.
They're going to be a brew pub, yeah.
Okay.
Lionbridge is considered a production brewery because we are a brewery first and a place to have a beer second.
Okay.
But it's all like, I'm a guy, like this is my job, and I couldn't tell you right now what all those definitions are. I'm half making it up. But I'm pretty close. I think like I'm there, like we're in the wheelhouse, but
sure.
There are a lot of definitions. Yeah, in Iowa, and then there's laws that like define what you are in Iowa. So there's federal laws and the state laws, and everything since Prohibition ended in 1933 is like it's like this like really tough thing.
Do you hate all that part? I mean, do you not mind? Is it part of the deal, so you're okay with it, or does this drive you crazy?
Yeah, I mean, you figure it out. It's tough dealing with it's tough dealing with alcohol still as this, like essentially, for lack of a better word, a sin. You're dealing with beer as this, it's taxed and it's looked at as something that is, I won't say evil, but it is like, it's something that's looked at as a vice. So instead of it being like this product that is like, it's a great part of our culture.
Sure.
It's a great part of like, responsible adults see it that way. But, there are obviously people who ruin it for the rest of us, or who like do bad things with anything, whether it's like, alcohol or sports or religion or I don't know, whatever. It can be abused, but alcohol is something that for the longest time, you can just tax it, or you can, because it's sort of, it's okay. Like people won't fight it too much, or people will just deal with it or whatever. So, I mean, small brewers have had a hard time getting going. Fortunately, like in Iowa is a pretty good place to start a brewery legally. There are some advantages, like as a small brewery in Iowa, Lionbridge, we can self-distribute. So we deliver all of our own beer. Like when a bar or restaurant is like, we want to carry Lionbridge beer, like I put it on the list, and our delivery driver takes kegs to those people. Like a lot of states, every state is different. Like after Prohibition, they just sort of released every state to create its own laws, which for good or bad, that created, many, many, many different laws. And so it's really difficult. Like if Lionbridge wanted to go sell beer in Illinois or Missouri or wherever, like we'd have to deal with a whole different set of laws, which, makes it complicated. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it requires you to become a legal expert, for, whether you want to or not.
Right.
You have to learn a lot about what you can and cannot do.
When we became an LLC and we went to the bank and did all the paperwork, I just dreaded just even the thought of it, because I don't understand it very well, and I don't want to pay somebody to help me understand it more or better. And I just can't wait till I just can say, here's all my paperwork, do whatever the hell you need to do with it, because my brain just does not function like that.
I'm going to do taxes for the first time, incorporating the podcast.
Yeah.
I've had night sweats.
Oh yeah, no, I had the same,
sweats.
like I had to, I started an LLC to be like the, that is Lionbridge Brewing Company. And, that has to, it's the first time in my life I've actually had to seek out other people to help me with taxes. Mm-hmm. 'Cause I don't know what that means. Like, I could try and do them, but I'd probably end up in jail or something like that.
Or there's some little loophole that you didn't know about that just changes everything.
Yeah,
you'd save a ton of money.
If you just would have marked that box instead of that box,
yeah, no,
you wouldn't be paying $5,000 extra.
Oh no, it's crazy. Like I can't do it anymore, and so definitely hiring on someone to help us out this year with. But it's a Lionbridge. To some people it's small. To some people, to me, it's a lot more complicated than I've ever dealt with anything.
And it's success-wise, I guess how you view your definition of success. Are you hitting the goals you want to hit as we kind of finish up the podcast? Are you on plan to do the things you wanted to do when you set out to have this kind of dream and this goal? Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty pleased. Like you're always trying to dial it in and do it better than always looking for for ways you can improve,
Sure.
like on every angle, and especially like critically about what I'm doing personally, like in the brewery, like those days when I'm talking to myself, I'm probably talking about how I can do things better, and so like you're always looking for ways to improve. I'm very pleased with how we've done in our first year. We're definitely way ahead of where I ever thought we would be. The fact that we can look toward an expansion and buy more tanks to produce more beer is huge, and something I didn't really, necessarily foresee. I thought maybe we'd be, initially when you're writing making those Excel spreadsheets, you're thinking you'll probably be, for a couple of years at least, sort of just trying to, to make a profit. And so like we're pleased that we can actually go and expand a little bit.
Sure.
So that's really nice. And, I hope, that we can see more of that in the future. I don't know where we'll go or what, kind of move we'll try and make to increase like our, the awareness of our brand. Whether, we go to Des Moines every once in a while to take beer there just to, get some beer in the market, and there's some great beer bars there that have been really supportive of us. So, I see more of that and hopefully more of that in the future.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, we really appreciate you taking the time today to come
thanks,
down.
Quinn.
It's been a pleasure. It's been great having a couple of beers with you guys, or three.
Awesome. Like I said, I come here on a semi-weekly basis because I love getting my growlers filled. So.
Nice. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate
We
your
love
business.
Yeah, and we will continue. Todd and I are going to continue a conversation back at the podcast studio, but we're going to say goodbye to Quinn. And is there anything else you want to say?
That was it, man.
That was it.
I love it here. I feel like I'm just like drooling all over Quinn. But I love the beer and I love the atmosphere and I love bringing my kids in here. They like the cheese platters.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful place for Cedar Rapids.
But really quick, before we let you go, one last thing.
Sure.
Besides Sapid Episode,
Yeah.
got it. Besides that, and Cobble Hill,
Yeah.
March 31st. What else is there anything big that's going on with you guys that you're planning for? Anything?
A local fresh sausage maker, a friend of ours who comes in-house to make sausages for us. We're doing a beer and sausage event this Thursday, March 5th. It's going to be 5 beers, 5 sausages. It's going to be awesome.
Oh,
this guy does some awesome
This
stuff.
Thursday?
Yeah, this Thursday. I think there's 5 tickets left. We're selling 50. We've already sold 45. Wow. So
I'm always hearing about this very late.
You can buy them on Eventbrite still. If there's 5 left, you can, buy them all. Because, then let's see, the next week we're doing some great live music. We've got, the week of the 11th through 15th. I'd have to look to see what's going on. We've got some cool events coming up. It is our 1-year anniversary month. So then the week of St. Patrick's Day, we're actually specially open on Tuesday, which we're not typically open on Tuesday. We're going to be open from like 10 a.m. until the last person leaves, probably be like 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. It's a Tuesday, for God's sakes. But we're going to be open that. We're going to have a food special, that is sort of St. Patrick's Day themed. That Saturday is St. Joseph's Day, which is like a Czech holiday. That there's going to be parades on Tuesday and Saturday, and we're going to use, Lionbridge is going to be in both parades. So we'll have parades going. That Saturday, we're going to have like somewhere between a 10 and 17 piece polka band playing in the space. It's a local Czech polka band called Czech Plus.
Nice.
They're awesome. I don't really know what 17 polka players will do to our space. It might just obliterate, like people won't even be able to hear each other, but we'll see. I told them that they need to sort of play according to volume levels. I don't know what'll happen, but it sounds like a lot of fun. And then, we've got the next week after that, we have a community supported ales, which is a club we do, which you are a member of, right? We have an appreciation week. So we're going to be doing a growler fill special, a different one every day. Yes. We'll also be doing a food special. We're doing a collaboration with the class act, the Hotel Kirkwood. That week, we'll be doing one special that their chef de cuisine is going to come in and create a food special for us that week, that we'll serve throughout the entire week until it's gone. Cause they've been a great collaborator for us with beer. They use a lot of our beer in their food. We've had a couple beer dinners with them. That Friday night, we're going to be doing a concert with Winterland, which is they're not necessarily totally like a Grateful Dead cover band, but they're really fantastic. They do some great sort of blues, bluegrass, funk, jazz, Grateful Dead cover stuff, and they have a great following in the area. They'll be on Friday night.
Are you the person reaching out? I mean, holy shit.
I was just going to ask that.
Are you
You're
out there
responsible for brewing?
Yeah.
But who's doing all this other stuff?
Well, it's...
And whoever it is, they need to sit down with Todd over there, give him some pointers.
I think I'm doing okay.
No, you're
What the
doing
fuck?
fine.
Well,
Relax.
it is myself and Alec Travis who are doing. Alec is our taproom manager. He and I are doing a lot of the collaborations for, trying to get people into the space for these special events. Alec also does a trivia night. I didn't even include that, but we do a trivia night every other week. So somewhere worked in there, I'd have to look at the calendar. There's trivia nights.
Now,
The
is all
picture,
of this
picture
on your
Facebook
website?
of trivia night last Thursday trivia night picture on Facebook.
Yeah.
This place was packed over here.
Oh, yeah,
for
it
trivia
was
night.
full.
It was awesome.
Okay, trivia night?
Like,
Yeah, we do a trivia night. So Alec, it's real. It's great. We it's sort of like local artisan trivia. So Alec is writing all the questions himself. We like to incorporate a lot of things with beer and fermentation into the questions, but we usually have like about 10 teams of 4 to 6 people come in. The first place prize is we pay for your tab, so like you can eat and drink whatever you want
To your heart's content.
Yeah, I think that doesn't include growler fills. We don't do growler fills.
Okay.
But food and beverage wise, for between 4 and 6 people, you enjoy like your time, and all you have to do is win. That's it. You just have
All you gotta do is win.
All you gotta do is win.
Bring your lucky hat.
Worst case scenario, you have a great meal and some great beer.
If you don't win, you just pay for your tab. But we've had some great scenarios where we have like a couple teams who are real close, and they're all running up to the bar before the last round of trivia, like ordering like 4 to 6 rounds of whatever and food. And so someone's going to lose.
It's quite the gamble.
It's really, it's awesome.
And Quinn's just sitting back going, yeah.
Yeah, order more. And then,
Order more.
Yeah.
You still got time.
you
Still got
got
time, people.
So that's the trivia night's a lot of fun too. And then,
Now, real quick.
yeah.
Is all of this stuff that you just vomited on me?
Yeah. I really did just vomit it.
Is that bad?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that a bad
horrible.
visual?
A horrible way to put it.
Maybe if I had a poetry degree, I'd say it better.
Yeah.
Is all of this stuff on your website?
The website, we're in the midst of redoing the website. So the website is not necessarily the best form of communication with
What is the
members.
best form of communication?
Probably right now it's social media between Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
Those are the 3 forms of social media we're using the most. Our website is going through an overhaul that when it sort of comes out, it will emerge as a beautiful phoenix that is much more easy to interact with.
And that's what a poet says.
Well, I didn't think
Exactly.
it's not too bad. I mean,
it's pretty. It needs some reworking. And
But all the stuff that you were saying, all the events, all the things that you're doing,
also
all
goes
the
out.
collaborations, is that on there?
I will say that if you go to www.lionbridgebrewing.com, there on that initial screen, the website's getting overhauled, but on that initial screen, there is a way for you to put in your email address, and then that signs you up for an email that I will be sending out probably tonight or early tomorrow that will include all of these events. So
Awesome.
So and if you don't get on it now, like I don't know quite when you guys are going to air
This
the
will go
podcast.
out next week.
Yeah,
Next Monday.
Then if people sign up from then, we'll probably do like another version of the email that will go out with all the upcoming events. We'll probably do a couple of emails this month just with the upcoming events. So all these events, we usually send out an email once a month, but we'll probably go to like twice a month just because this month we'll have a lot of events.
Awesome.
So yeah, right now the email that I write personally, that's usually the best way. We're with the year end, we're trying to sort of overhaul some of the communications we have and do it better, get it a little more dialed in. Because
we're still working on all our Facebook stuff too. So
our website,
you're not
needs an
alone.
overhaul.
It's a tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough one sometimes.
So on Facebook, you would just tile in Lion Bridge Brewery on Facebook?
On Facebook, it is, you just you can search for Lion Bridge Brewing Company, or you can, I believe it's, I don't know the exact, the hyperlink to get to Lion Bridge, but if you just go to facebook.com and search for Lion Bridge Brewing Company, you'll find us.
Okay.
And our handles on Twitter and Instagram are Lion Bridge Brew. Lion Bridge, BREW, Brew.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you, Quinn, for
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Spending some
Thanks
time
a lot
with
for coming
us
in.
tonight.
Yeah, awesome. Glad you guys could come in and have a couple beers.
I'm glad your wife could come in and hang out with us a little bit.
Yeah. She got a few photos, I think, of
Perfect.
me talking.
And maybe we'll finish some more stuff off in the studio, but I'm Matt.
I am Todd.
And we'll see you later.
Adios.
Good night.